Recording in progress.
As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the town YouTube. We ask that those attending over Zoom keep their cameras off and microphones muted if they are not involved in the discussion, and to use the raise hand feature if you'd like to speak. For those in person, please speak audibly toward the hanging microphones or use the microphone on the lectern. Before you make your comments, please state your name and the street that you live on for record keeping purposes. I ask that those in the room remain quiet unless they're involved in the discussion. If this meeting gets interrupted, we will immediately end the Zoom and send a new link via email. I'll now turn it back to you this time.
Thank you. Now, before we begin, we're here to receive testimony from Somerset citizens on the Planning Board's Attainable Housing Strategies Initiative. And I'm going to ask Councilmember Heller to give us an update on the process.
Okay, well, the process was going to be that today the county council was supposed to receive the official report about, all their listening sessions and anything else, and they postponed it. Because what they couldn't do as to date was to incorporate all the feedback that residents from around the county have sent in, like the letters we've asked you to write to us. We've asked you to also write to them. So they have not been able to incorporate that into their report. So they had to postpone the meeting unofficially. I hear the meeting is November 19th. When we get that official time and date, I will share that with the community.
Thank you. Thank you. So we always ask anyone who's in the room if they want to go first, if anyone's here to testify. And if so, please come to the podium and tell us your name and your street. And then we would like you to limit your remarks to 3 minutes if possible.
Half an hour.
My name is Kara Petaway. Is that good on?
Is it?
Good afternoon. My name is Kara Petaway Wheatley. I live at 4507 Dorset Avenue with my husband and 2 young daughters, the oldest of which is a first grader at Somerset Elementary. And we have lived in Somerset since 2019. And I have been following the dialogue on our listserv and listened to all the prior sessions, which I was not able to attend in person. I did send you all a letter and sent a letter to the county council members as well. But thought it was important to come to this meeting and to provide oral testimony as well. And I want to echo the comments that other residents of Somerset have made about this proposal. But something a bit different that I just wanted to add was the perspective of a homeowner who lives within 500 feet of one of the growth corridors. We are the last house on Dorset Avenue, neighboring Capella Park by Wisconsin Avenue. So we would be significantly impacted by the recommendations in the report. And I was really struck by the report. I was looking at it again after several times again last night of there really didn't seem to be any consideration for the impact on homeowners who are within that 500-foot zone in terms of how the additional development would impact, for example, stormwater runoff, which is an issue that we, like many Somerset residents, have had to deal with, and mitigation efforts as a result of that. I'm a lawyer and I read the report several times and had a difficult time discerning exactly what the process would be for this quote unquote moderate to medium density housing. Clearly it would be up to 19 units. My understanding is the setback requirements of Somerset would not apply. I looked at Ms. Giavoni's presentation. She had a slide about parking with regard to multifamily units such as duplexes and triplexes. I didn't see a comparable slide in terms of how parking would be handled for the medium to moderate density housing. If there were 19 units put, next door to me or on my lot, even if you had 19 additional cars, 19 cars, so 1 car per unit, and imagine that was even if it was half of the lots on Dorset Avenue and half the lots on Cumberland Avenue that could be developed in that way, and where would those cars be parked? Is it gonna be a permeable surface, which is gonna cause runoff to property owners? Are they gonna be parked on Dorset Avenue? I'm sure you all have experienced how difficult it can be to get up and down Dorset Avenue during rush hour. And also I've seen the school buses trying to dodge and weave, trying to get to Somerset Elementary. And we, the town, have received several emails from the town manager about that issue. So those are the types of issues that are not addressed in the planning report at all. And so I thought it was really important to share that perspective. I also didn't see in the report any rationale for how the 19-unit figure had been arrived upon, and how it got to be, the average square footage of 1,500 square feet. When I listened to one of the sessions, there was another resident of Somerset who I thought made a very astute observation during the listening session about, what would the cost of a 1,500 square foot unit in downtown Bethesda be? Is that going to attract a family? What would the cost of such a unit if high-end finishings were put into place? It certainly likely would not be attainable housing. One additional point I wanted to flag, which is in my letter, is that Mr. Boney acknowledged during the listening session that there's some an area of dispute or unclarity about whether the state or the county can regulate multi-unit buildings, and she admitted that that was an area that needed clarification. So it was surprising to me that the planning board would make recommendations when it's unclear whether the county has the legal authorities to regulate those units. And finally, I just want to say thank you to all of the council members. I know Kabir Kumar and Debbie Heller have done I think, an excellent job of keeping the community informed. And I'm disappointed that Montgomery County hasn't kept us informed, but I really appreciate your efforts to keep us informed. And for that reason, I really resonated with the comments in Chevy Chase Village's letter about the notice and comment and the procedural flaws in this process. And I would urge you all to write a letter to the county council that echoes the level of specificity and detailed and targeted recommendations that Chevy Chase Village has sent to the county council. I thought that was very effective and persuasive. And to really consider how this would impact residents, and particularly to think about the residents who live within 500 feet of a growth corridor. And just anecdotally, I will say, we really wanted to move to Somerset. We loved the walkability to the metro. We loved the walkability to the public elementary school and the town feeling of this community. And when we bought our house, it was a huge compromise, and it was a huge compromise on cost, because we were able to get a house in Somerset at a significant discount to be so close to Wisconsin Avenue. And, that was a compromise that we were willing to make. And I just want to say, because I know everyone's talking about affordability and attainability, and it's tough to get into a neighborhood like this. We made that compromise, but when we bought our house, we weren't agreeing to be next to a 19-unit apartment building and face significant stormwater runoff issues and significant parking and traffic issues. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I just want to just give you a footnote.
But we'll do that after. This is just here. Okay, thank you. Who's next?
Hello, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. My name is AHSI. I live with my husband and very often my granddaughter at 5527 Trench Street. We moved to Somerset. We bought a house in 2018, and after some renovation, we moved in 2019. We moved to Somerset because we were getting old, and the stairs in our old house were getting more challenging. And so now we live in a one floor house with a basement, and going down to the basement is recreational rather than mandatory. So, but once we moved back, I swim for exercise, and I found Somerset has a pool. So that was a bonus I didn't expect. I feel very strongly about this issue, not that I necessarily have objection to family housing in our neighborhood, but I objected to the way that this proposal was put forward. As I attended a Zoom meeting with County Executive Eldridge. I went to the BCC listening session. I also went through the interview that Mark Eldridge had with WTOP. And I think my main objection is that it's not the planning board's proposal is not coordinated with the master plan for the county. As Eldridge pointed out in various meetings that I attended in person, virtually or in person, is that the master plan and vision, as the first session I listened to, he said as of 20, they do 5-year projections, and the 5-year projection showed that by, I think it's by 2030, there will be a decline in the population in Montgomery County, and then while the projected housing units will exceed the projected population, and there will be a surplus by 2030. I actually wrote to them and I wanted to see that graph, but they never responded. But in the second, the PTOP interview, he pointed out that they have a projection until 2050. They envision 100,000 unit surplus, housing unit surplus. And that seems to be ignored completely by the planning board. And the impression I got also with this funny 19 unit limit on multiple housing, because once they reach 20 units, they have to have devote a percentage of the new project, the new building to affordable housing units to rent or to sell at below market rates. But that was not, no, so the 19 unit thing is really funny, and it just struck me when there is no provision for quote unquote affordable housing in the project when it says attainable housing. I really think that this is decision, a proposal that was promoted by the construction industry to increase profit, because as far as I'm concerned, I live right across my street was it was a 1950s, 60s Rambler. It was sold to a developer for 1.1 million, and it's now this gigantic house being built, and it's on the market for under 3.7 million, which is around that figure. And on the one hand, I don't think I want to live among people who could afford $3.7 million houses. A house on Trent Street was sold a few months ago, or maybe a year ago, for 3-point-something million. On the other hand, I don't think rezoning our plots to multiple family units would necessarily make the housing attainable, affordable. Because I think if the developer across the street, if he or she had the druthers, he will probably have built 4 units or maybe 6 units, and each of them would go for a couple of $1 million. So the multi-family units in Somerset is not going to go for something that's really attainable to the firemen, to the teachers, to the policemen who service our area. On the other hand, I think we should also be frank, honest with ourselves. Was Somerset ever, or Chevy Chase ever, an area, a neighborhood that was affordable to firemen, policemen, and teachers? I don't think it ever was. Maybe in the 60s, civil servants could afford to buy a place in Somerset, but now civil servants on civil servant salaries probably cannot afford it. So I think there's a certain dishonesty or disingenuousness on the part of the proposal, the people who set up the proposal. I actually had an idea, I don't know how enforceable it is, that perhaps instead of that when the house is being torn down, perhaps we could have, I don't know whether the town of Somerset, whether the county could say that you can build a house which is, say, not more than 50% larger in footprint or square footage than the torn down property. I think in that case, the house may become $2.5 million instead of $3.5 million. But $2.5 million is certainly more attainable and 3.5 million, and also it could preserve the trees, the sort of landscape of the torn down property, because so I could see the across my street. Now it's built towards whatever the setback or whatever the minimum space you have to have with your neighbor, and there's very little yard space left, and they tore down, they cut a tree, but promised to preserve another tree. So because I read the letter from Chevy Chase Village. I thought is very well written because it's very specific, and the great part about it is also it proposed specific resolutions to address its criticisms. So I think when Somerset drafts its letter, we should keep that in mind, because it's not just criticize, but say what you can do better. So.
Thank you very much. Councilmember, are you gonna, Councilmember Picard, are you gonna testify? Okay, is anybody online?
Yes,
Okay.
if you would like to speak, please raise your hand or reply to me in the chat.
Nobody. Okay, well, anyway, thank you, everyone. After we conclude the hearing, we'll have a little discussion. But why don't you, Councilmember Heller, respond to that one question to clarify about the legislation in Annapolis. I think that's what we're going to talk about.
No,
right?
I wasn't.
What were we going to talk about? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna respond to something Kara had to say.
Yeah.
I wasn't, the legislation that's going on in Annapolis, we should
Well,
explain what that is.
Well, we'll talk about that. Okay, so anyway, so all these comments are going to be forwarded to the council. We're going to still be encouraging citizens to write to us and to write to the council about these recommendations. And again, no legislation has been introduced. So if that ever does happen, there'll be a whole other process for that. So thank you, everyone. And we will now conclude the public hearing. Thank you, everybody.